All right, so hi everyone. I'm Roy from SeeMetrics, and I also have a 2-year-old son. His name is Ariel, and when Ariel was 6 months old, my wife and I decided to go to a short, relaxing trip, and obviously by relaxing I mean without Ariel. So we had a very interesting question between us, and that was who will babysit Ariel. Now luckily for us, both sides, Ariel is the first grandson, so both sides really wanted to have him. For almost 2 days, so we had to make a decision for this question. Now, to answer this question, I said, okay, how we will decide? And we said, in order to decide, let's measure the performance of each side, and then we'll be able to understand who is the winner. And things like, just as an example, things that we measure, if they are familiar with all the critical assets that we have, what's the mean time to change his diaper, what's the threat landscape, if they're familiar with the threat landscape in the house, what's the SLA for activities, if they have a remediation plan for a crisis, and what's the awareness program. That was very important for us to measure. Now, I took all this data from all the different resources, and I had to report to the board, in this case, to my wife, so I reported on the gaps, efficiencies, inefficiencies, and we made a decision. Now, I'm not saying I provided false positive, but in this case, the winner was my mom. So, this is exactly what security leaders face with every day, and not with the question of who will babysit Ariel, even though we are open for suggestions, but they face with many questions, hard to answer on a daily basis. And questions like how exactly all the systems and money that we invested reduce our business risk, are we spending too much or not enough? What is the mean time to resolve, detect, or contain? How all the systems work together? Do we have overlaps? How much do we reduce our risk? And do we protect the right things? And obviously, much more questions than that. This is just an example of high-level questions security leaders get on a daily basis. Now, the challenge with that is that it's very hard to understand how do I start answering this question? What's my starting point? Even if I have a starting point, some customers, some organizations have some kind of metric program, but it's very manual to collect the information, manual to aggregate, manual to make sense of it out of the data. Most of the measurements and metrics that they have, even if they have, are not business-oriented. They're really spread and relevant for a specific use case or question that they just got. And they're very segregated. So each team, each business unit will measure the things that they care about. Our approach as SeeMetrics is to start, the mindset is to start from the high-level question, to start from what questions that, like I presented and more, what's the objective, what is the question I'm trying to answer. Then we provide context, like which areas you need to focus on in order to start answering the question. Things like you can focus on your security program, on threats, different areas in across your security organization that you need to focus to have some kind of starting point. Under that, when we dive into specific context or more, we apply different measurements and metrics. So we say, okay, we need to measure all these things in order to get to the conclusion, so it will help me answer the question. And we connect to all the relevant tools, to the different security tools, to collect the information. So we do that, you can think about it top to bottom or bottom up, but our mindset is actually top to bottom, to start with what I'm trying to answer, what's the context that I'm at, what do I need to measure, and from which tools. Just as an example, if I want to understand how my security awareness is performing, then in our case at SeeMetrics, we provide context. Let's look at the awareness and utilization kind of programming area. We apply different metrics and measurements, and we connect to the relevant tools to aggregate the information automatically and all the way up to the question. Now, this is an old saying I have, and by old I mean I thought about it yesterday, but one metric, from what we see, one metric is an indication, but when you combine multiple metrics, then it becomes a story. No one really cares about like one specific measurement or metric. When you combine them, then it can help you answer the question and tell a story. So going back to the challenge, we provide a contextual, out-of-the-box metrics, so it will give you some kind of a starting point. It's automatic because we can automatically integrate with the devices and security tools and aggregate information to SeeMetrics. Everything is business-driven because the mindset starts from the questions that the security users face every day, and it's centralized. Everything is centralized at SeeMetrics, and then you have one centralized location that you can view everything. And I have 10 seconds left. So thank you very much for listening. And feel free to visit us. We have a booth upstairs, and that's it. Thank you again. Yeah, sorry. Took ownership.
Thank you, Roy. I really appreciate that. Out of curiosity, who's watching Ariel right now?
Right now?
Yeah.
My wife.
Is Ariel okay? Okay.
That's